Welcome to another edition of Riding Home here on Dog Post, making you a smarter UGA fan. Dean Legge and Matt DeBary. Matt, um, we are within 48 hours of the final signing day for the 2020 period. Georgia, right now, this moment, holding on to the number one spot in the country, the consensus of all the major recruiting databases. And yet, in these last two couple 48 hours or so, one reason why they've jumped to number one are the couple guys that they've gotten. Now, we've talked about these guys individually, but what do you think now that you just sort of take a step back and globally look at this 2020 class as it stands right now? Because I would be completely stunned if the two guys who've committed here lately back away in any way.
Yeah, real quick, Broderick Jones canceled his Auburn visit. Looks like he's going to stay committed to Georgia and sign with them. And if you're on Dog Post, you knew that was probably coming. And then Cedric Van Pran took his official visit to Florida, heard nothing from it. He's excited to sign with Georgia on Wednesday. So they'll keep those two in the fold. But they did pick up two more guys that we thought could be Bulldogs on signing day. They decided to break the news for us a little sooner with four-star running back Dejan Edwards, three-star wide receiver Ladd McConkey, and these are guys that the Georgia staff wanted to close with. They spent a lot of time recruiting these kids, especially lately, and they got them to jump on board and make their decision before signing day. But overall, last year's class, 2019, was focused more on the defensive side of the football, bringing in all those defensive linemen, the few DBs, and guys like Nolan Smith and the linebackers and so on. This year, more offense. They brought in 5 wide receivers, 6 offensive linemen. They got their quarterback. They got 2 running backs. They brought in a Trey McKitty, the transfer tight end, to go along with 5-star Darnell Washington that they brought in. So this was very offensive heavy in this class, and I think this is a group that is going to play a lot and be a big part of Georgia's offense for the next few years. You're going to look back and a lot of these guys from this 2020 class are going to be ones who are going to be asked to step up and make a lot of plays. Maybe not this year. Some of them could be this year, but definitely the 21 and 22 seasons, you're going to see a lot of these guys from the 2020 class making a big deal on this team.
But when you look at the 2019 class with Trayvon and Nolan and all those guys, they did make an impact. Nakobe, they made impact right away. What's to say that these guys who are signing right now, they have an opportunity to come in and really play quick. I think that if you're Carson Beck, you have an opportunity here to compete for the starting job. Doesn't mean you'll win it, but it gives you a chance to get in there, learn what's going on. You know that Jamie Newman's a 1-year guy. When you look at the receivers, just pick a person.
They're game changers. That's what we say. Kirby's trying to bring in game changers, especially a wide receiver, and that's exactly what they did in this class.
So my point is that I just don't think there are traditional rules anymore. I think the rule that exists today is, can you play? Good. You're going to play right now. You might not start, might not be a superstar. Look at George Pickens. I don't know how long it took him to become a superstar, but by the end of this season, he has become one for sure. And you could see that in the Arkansas State game.
You saw it a lot in Missouri. I think that was his coming out party, was the Missouri game. But especially if you're on defense, yeah. Kirby's bringing these guys in and out depending on what the scheme is, the down and distance. So if you can play on defense, you're probably going to play, and they have a specific plan for you.
You're telling me that Kendall Milton has the capability of being a special player at Georgia, just the way that Zamir still has the capability of being a special player. Kendall Milton could play quickly at Georgia. Now, would he ever? Will he ever? Or when will he reach superstar status? I don't know the answer to that stuff, but I know that Kendall for sure will have the capability to play pretty quick in this scheme for Georgia. We're talking about a team that's certainly going to be coming into the season as a top 10 team. Are they going to be a top 5? I don't know. And then I'm skipping Darnell and Mchale Sherman, Keely Ringo. If Broderick signs, which we expect, those are guys that could all play a lot / start.
Yeah, I think especially with Keeley, I went out and saw him. Keeley could play wide receiver for Georgia. Keeley could get some carries in the backfield if they really need him to, but he's going to be that. Well, hopefully the Georgia staff is hoping he can turn into that shutdown corner, but he checks all the boxes there.
Why does it matter if he's a shutdown corner? I mean, it's hard to. I mean, shutdown corners really don't exist in the NFL because of the rules. Shutdown corner might be an overused phrase, but why does it matter if you can really depend on a guy stopping the other team 85% of the time? Why don't you
A lot
go?
of it you got to be tough too, especially when you want to play on the outside, and you got to be able to tackle, and he brings that as well. But you don't want to get beat. Every time Georgia got beat this year, which they did a few times, Kirby's going nuts on the sideline. That's one of the
Yeah.
things that it appears like ticked him off the most is letting someone get by you. And they definitely added speed to the cornerback position with Keely Ringo and Jalen Kimber. We'll see if they add another fourth defensive back that in this class. That's one of the things I'm trying to focus on the most. There's not a ton of talent out there when you talk about uncommitted defensive backs. So
Right.
I'm starting to think there might be a chance where they say, you know what, we're not going to bring in someone just to bring in someone. That's not what Kirby's been doing. That's not how he wants to do things. So if they're not SEC caliber game changers, there's a chance Kirby might just settle, well, not really settle, but stick with the three defensive backs they already have signed, and two of them being enrolled already. So that's something that I'm interested to see how it unfolds. But there could be a position where there's just one more spot or none at all. So that's why we're trying to figure out in these next 48 hours. But it doesn't seem like there's going to be any big surprises unless there's this giant flip that happens at the last hour. It doesn't seem like this is going to be, a huge, dramatic, big surprise type of signing day, especially with McConkey and Edwards jumping on board a few days early.
When you look at this class compared to last year's class, I mean, we already know what last year's class did. I mean, to some degree, last year's class is a touch incomplete because of Mathis not being able to go this past year, but that happens. I mean, you're going to have classes that guys don't play. Mchale Webb didn't play, but several of these guys did play. I mean, it's going to be tough to have a better top end than Nolan, N'Kobe, George Pickens, Trayvon. I mean, Trayvon is not even close to being done, being as good as he's going to be. I'm going to
Yeah.
tell you that right now. Tyreek,
Talking
Dominique.
about the defensive player, I think Jalen Carter and Mikkel Sherman are
Yeah.
two guys who could still push for playing time, even though they brought in so much talent at those positions last year. And then Keely Ringo, too, at cornerback, I think is going to play. A lot of really good, talented guys ahead of him, but he's too talented not to play. And we've seen Kirby sub guys in and out so much. These guys are definitely going to get a look and play a little bit.
I mean, a lot of discussion about Jalen Carter. And when I went down there and spent some time with him in October, and I don't see how you can't call that Orlando, but Apopka. He's a guy that definitely came on as the season went on, and then in the All-Star games, he was, just really impressive. And guys like him and, Ringo, Mchale, those guys are going to have the ability to play. I wonder if McCall's going by MJ now. Or, I mean, his family calls him MJ. I wonder what he'll have on his, what he decides to go with as his roster name. But he has been coming back from an injury. I mean, there are some guys here that we didn't even get the chance to see how good they're going to be in 2019, the fall of 2019.
Yeah, they do take us all over, but you got a chance to go up and watch Mchale Sherman. We talked about it on another riding home. There's a lot of outside linebackers on this team, a lot of good ones, and he's behind a few guys, but he is good enough to where he is going to play.
The body is there. I mean, you can't. The biggest
you can't
thing,
teach that.
No, you can't. And if you look at guys, one thing that separates Trayvon from other guys is his body with the capability to really run. Sherman, I couldn't see that as much because literally the game I saw him play was the one that came back from the ACL injury. So they were making certain that he could be cleared to play, but he could be a very good player for them. Not even Nolan, as good as Nolan was and is, he didn't just he wasn't the way Roquan was in 2017, he's a guy that blended in with everybody else on this defense. It's gonna be tough to shine because there are so many good players, and
And they're all healthy, getting in.
essentially everybody just does their job,
Yeah.
and that's why they're so difficult to deal with.
And when you do that, it helps everyone, as we know. So the talent on defense they brought in, it wasn't as much as what they brought in 2019 because 2020 was mostly offensive based. But the guys they did bring in on defense, they brought in speed, especially in the back end, and they brought athleticism up front with Jalen Carter. And then right in the middle, it seems like the only linebacker they're going to take in this class after taking, I think, 5 last year is Mchale Sherman, who's one of the highest ranked players that they've signed so far.
Yeah, he's a heck of a player, and in the 20 class, I mean, in 21 you've already got your quarterback. I mean, that gives you the capability of setting. This is not the right way to put it, but setting the edge for 21. I mean, you can start from there and take it on out. I think one thing that someone on the message board posted was that, hey, this guy's local. He gives you the capability of recruiting all the time. I mean, he's hyper local too, by the way. I mean, he's right there. At most, he's 20 minutes at most from downtown and where you'd want to, the football complex at Georgia. So,
well, he's already recruiting Amarius Mims, a guy
correct.
that we've seen, and I think he could be on Georgia's commitment list. In the next month or two, whenever he's ready to go. I think Georgia has a comfortable lead, even though he did just take a few visits this past weekend, and he's doing his due diligence. But I think with the help of Brock Vandegrift, I think Georgia's in a really, really good spot for him. And there's a lot of guys, especially offensive linemen, who are going to want to play for him. And of course, he's going to be out recruiting the receivers that they all want to bring in, which is a question mark. There's a lot of big time receivers, especially in state, that Georgia isn't really pushing for. So it'll be interesting to see where they go at receiver because they might just take 2, maybe 3 after taking 5 in this 2020 class. So that'll be something to keep an eye on as well.
I do think they'll take one more kid in this 2020 class. They're sitting at 23 right now. It would be interesting to see them stay at 22. Now you got to keep in mind that the two, the tight end and the help me out here,
the quarterback.
Yeah, that guy.
Well, they brought in Austin Kirksey as well, the old Walton quarterback,
but
who was
not
at Nevada,
but not on scholarship.
Not on scholarship,
right?
And at least they've got the arms. But Jamie Newman's the guy you're thinking about.
Yeah,
he's important.
And everybody that gives me shit listening to these, talking about pronunciations and so forth, it's real convenient to do that from listening, and we appreciate y'all listening. I'm just not, I understand it's our job to pronounce.
There's no script in front of us.
No, there's no script. And by the way, if you're talking about a guy who is not a well-known guy, why would we certainly know how to get their name right? And why would I know off the top of my head, for sure that I'm saying it right every single time? I mean, if Darnell Washington was a brand name for a long time. I mean, I just said Mchale Sherman, who's a top 10 guy. We don't know if he's going to be called MJ at Georgia or Mchale. So,
well, these kids love to switch their name up too. Quindarius Hale turned into Smoke Monday. You see that a good bit now. I don't know what their first name is, especially trying to find these kids on Twitter. And I look at their names like that can't be right. There's no way that's this kid's real name.
Yeah, it's never right on Twitter. Ever. I'm watching, by the way, in the background here. I'm watching Scream, which was a big deal. Did you watch that when you were in middle school? I guess
Scream. Yeah.
Was that middle school for you?
Courtney Cox, is that her?
Yeah,
she was in that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember old Courtney Cox in Scream.
I'm a little confused as to the whole point of Scream, other than just like really good-looking women running around with a slasher film, I guess. But this team and this program has been making people scream with fear when they run on the field a lot lately. But the one thing you do watch at the Super Bowl and say, hey, they got to get better at that at Georgia, and this has been addressed, is offense. As much as Patrick Mahomes and company struggled when they needed to score 3 touchdowns, they did. And, could you really say that about Georgia? I mean, shoot, they barely scored 3 touchdowns in games. I mean, at Auburn,
They
they
had
did
trouble scoring at
here,
least 30
right,
against most
which is
teams.
more than 3 touchdowns, obviously. But
Yeah.
that's the thing: is can Darnell come in and be the tight end they need him to be? If Broderick is being asked to be right tackle or even, I guess right guard, I doubt he'd play right guard with Ben there. But, can Kendall come in and play? Can Tate come in and play? Roseme, Burton, those guys. I mean, Van Pran, is he going to get looks? All these guys who can come in on offense, the door is wide open on Georgia's offense right now. There are no certainties. Jake Fromm's gone.
Well, I think your 2 leading receivers at tight end will be Darnell Washington and Trey McKitty, the guy they just brought in from Florida State. I really like Eric Gilbert. I think he's more ready to play than Darnell Washington.
Man.
But Darnell's going to play because there's no one else like him on the roster at that position. So he's going to play. He might not be outstanding, but Eric Gilbert's the real deal.
Man, he is frightening.
He is very, very good.
He is a frightening player to watch. But Darnell's, not pig suey. I mean, he's a good, what's the phrase? Chop suey.
Chop suey. He's not as smooth and can't run routes like Eric, but he can go up and get the ball, and he's a mismatch, and he will definitely have an opportunity to make a lot of plays.
I mean, is he as big as he?
He's big. He's big. He's pushing 6'8". He's a legit 6'7". The guy looks like an NBA small forward. He's got big old arms. He's long. I saw him get off the bus in Las Vegas. I said, "Oh wow, he is as big as everyone says." So he's definitely going to bring that size element to them the second he steps in that tight end room.
Well, they need it, and we need y'all to stick around. Pay attention to Dog Post. Thanks for listening. Go ahead, click to subscribe. Tell us what you think down below. Take it easy on us on the pronunciations of names. Dean Legge and Matt DeBary wrapping up today's version of the Roundtable.